For years, Apple saved the best of everything for the Pro lineup, and I built my entire setup around that logic. If the serious machine exists, then get a serious machine. That is why I ended up with this $4,000 M4 Max MacBook Pro. But since the introduction of the MacBook Neo, the MacBook Air is no longer the compromised Mac. It sits right in the middle. For the past 2 months, that has been the only laptop that I use. You see, I've always been a big screen person, so moving from a 16-inch MacBook to a 13-inch MacBook was genuinely a concern, and surprisingly, I kind of like it. Because most of my serious work happens on a monitor anyway, and I don't feel limited in any way working from the 13-inch MacBook. If anything, it allows me to stay focused on one thing and one thing only, which is a blessing in disguise, I guess. On paper, the difference between this and the 16-inch MacBook Pro is £2, and you feel it right away. It genuinely makes working from anywhere easier, and it quietly changed the way that I boarded taking my laptop anywhere. That is something that a spec sheets cannot really tell. This is the air handling video edit that I will normally run on the M4 Max. As you can see, it has a lot of heavy color grades and it's doing it without complaint. Full resolution playback, no frames dropped. In single core performance, the Air outperforms the M4 Max chip 4174 against 3900. Multi-core, that is where the Pro shows its dominance, and the gap is real when you are rendering, compiling, and exporting heavy stuff. But most of what people actually use their laptop for runs on a single core. Opening apps, browsing, working in docs, all runs on a faster chip. So for everyday stuff, the Air is still faster. Because it has no fans, under sustained workload, it gets noticeably hot and performance starts pulling back. Also, summer makes it worse. When it's pushing 100 degrees outside, working on a fanless computer, it's no fun. And if your work demands that you work in warmer environments, that is something to consider. Speaking of heat, it's kind of hot in here. God. You see, the Pro pushes the heat away with the fans, but with the Air, it damps the heat to the body. So I realized it gets uncomfortably hot around these areas. But the M5 efficiency core actually handles every task well. So real heat only builds up when the performance cores are penned for several minutes. Now we get the same liquid retina panel as before with peak brightness at 500 nits. Working indoors, it looks good, but the moment you work under sunlight, it's a struggle to see what's on your screen. So again, if your work demands that you work outside, this is something that you have to factor into your consideration. Getting an SDR display would have been perfect, but you know, Apple is not giving that to the Air, even though people will still buy the Pro regardless. And then there is a 60 Hz refresh rate, which is a major concern for most people, and I get it. Coming from a 120 Hz, I noticed it in the first week. Scrolls were not as smooth and fast, but after the first week, it was normal. Everything was good. I got adjusted and I didn't feel it at all. Look, if you're looking for a faster refresh rate, you can connect to an external monitor. At 4K resolution, you get 240 Hz refresh rate, which is even better. Now you get two Thunderbolt 4 ports, a headphone jack, and a MagSafe. That's it. Currently, my external monitor occupies one of the ports, and the additional port is not enough to fit in every single thing I want to plug in. A dock stopped becoming an accessory, it's now part of the setup. And the hardest thing adjusting to is remembering to bring the dock every single time you leave the house. I keep forgetting it, especially coming from a laptop that gives you an SD card slot, an HDMI, and an extra port. You don't really need a dock if you don't want to. So this is something that you should, notice. Ever since Apple introduced Apple Silicon chips, the battery life on MacBooks has been great. This one promises 15 to 18 hours of screen time depending on what you're working on, and honestly, it holds up. Mine hasn't given me any issues, and I actually like the form factor of the power brick. It's really small, can fit in your pocket compared to the one that ships with a 16-inch MacBook Pro. It's huge. Apple just do something about it. It's terrible. Finally, Apple did listen and doubled the base storage from 256 to 512. But that would have been great if it didn't arrive with the new price tag. The RAM still remains 16 gigs. I do have a hot take. A lot of people advise that, hey, get whatever configuration and you'll be fine. I strongly disagree with that advice, because if you intend to keep this laptop for 5 to 6 years, the base configuration will start limiting you even before the laptop wears out. For me, the sweet spot is at least 24 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of storage. That quietly upgrades you to a 10-core GPU as well. And yes, I will get the SSD upgrade from Apple too, because if you tend to go the external SSD route, most of them has a slower read and write speed compared to the ones Apple provide. And even if you get ones that have comparable read and write speed, the price difference wouldn't be that much. Also, remember, it's external. You have to bring it along every single time. Kind of inconvenience. Do I subscribe to the fact that Apple charges ridiculous amount for upgrades? No, but that is the only route. It makes sense, it's convenient. If you don't mind the inconvenience, I would say go the external route. On June 25th, Apple increased the price of almost the entire lineup of Mac and iPad. The Air moved from $1099 to $1299. The Pro got a $300 increase. The Neo got a $100 increase. And Apple flat out said that they cannot shield consumers from component cost anymore, which I think it's a little selfish and insensitive, because Apple has been charging ridiculous prices for memory upgrades for years, even when memory were in abundance. So yeah, here we are. Also, most of the alternative had price increase as well. HP, Lenovo, Asus, due to the memory crisis. So my honest buying advice has an asterisk on it. The M5 MacBook Air is an amazing laptop, but it's the wrong time to buy it right now. I would say go the refurbished route. Check an M4 Max. You can check on deals on Amazon and also Back Market, which is a really good site, and usually they do have some sweet deals happening as well. If you plan to wait for the prices to come back to normal, the memory manufacturers are projecting this shortage to run through 2027.